Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel The Growing Developer. In this video we're gonna add some features to our application. We're gonna be adding some dark modes as well as real-time searches to our application. First of all, thank you all for trying out the app, and as you noticed and as you commented that there were some changes to the API. That is, now they have sorted the countries alphabetically. As you can see that in the section of most affected countries, the countries are coming alphabetically, not cases wise, right? So we'll be changing the API for that. It's the same API, but we'll be adding some parameter to it so that it is sorted according to the cases. As well as, if you go to this regional section, the country stats, we can't search for our present country. So for that I'll be implementing real-time searches so that it will be easy for you. You can directly write the country name and get the country statistics.
The growing developer.
Okay, to start, let us go to the home page file where we have fetched the country details. There you go, you can see that we have fetched the country details. Now if I open my browser and I go to the API/countries, you can see that the result that I'm getting is alphabetical. That is, it starts with A letter and we're going. Previously we were getting the results according to the cases. So for that, what you're going to do is, to the API, just write question mark. Question mark means that you are giving some parameter to it. Right, sort, that is how you want the API or how you want the list to be sorted, and this equal to, I'll write cases, that is according to cases it will be sorting. Press enter, and now you can see that according to cases, you see the list is sorted. So what we're going to do is, to this function just write question mark sort equals to cases. Right, makes sense. And now if I restart this application, and you can see that now we have the sorted list here. Now next main thing is to add dark mode to our application. Now Flutter makes the dark mode available using the dark theme, and so what we're going to do is go to main.dart file. Let me just show you one thing. If I set the brightness here as brightness.dark and restart this application, you can see that automatically it has moved to the dark theme. But we need to change the dark theme programmatically. That is, according to our logic, whenever the user presses any button, maybe I'll add some button here. So whenever the user presses that button, we change the theme to dark theme. So how we're gonna change it? And also you can see that it automatically changes the black text to white text, and more precisely the text which you haven't styled, it changes according to the theme. Now we have some flaw here, that when we go to regional, you can see that we have all the containers as white. Why? Because by default we have given these containers a white color, if you remember in the previous video. Go to the info section and there I have embedded the video, and you can see, watch that video, right? So we're gonna change this also. So first of all, how we're gonna change this brightness programmatically, right? One more thing, we don't have any concept to call this main again and again. A void main has to be called only once. So what we're gonna do is, we'll make a stateless widget and name it as my app. Now inside this my app, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna return this material app from this my app widget, right? So I'm just gonna cut it and paste it here, and inside this my app run app, I'm gonna return my app. Now this way, why I did it, because this way I'll have the build context and I can change and I can play with the context later on using the code. So restart it. Okay, there is some error, I guess. Where is the error? Here you go. We have multiple brackets, and now restart this application, and you can see that the application is up and running. That means there are no errors. So let me just change it to light here. By default it is light, right? So if I restart this application, you can see that we have the light theme here. So how to change it programmatically? For that we'll be using the plugin known as dynamic theme. See, changing theme, you can change the theme using provider plugins or using advanced state management. At my channel we haven't yet studied, or we haven't yet discussed about those. So I want that we proceed with some flow. So when we'll be discussing about the provider, then we'll discuss how we can change the theme also. So by that time I'm going to use a plugin. So kudos to the developer who made that plugin, and it automatically manages the states. So let's see what is the plugin. Go to pub.dev and search for dynamic theme. So this is the plugin. So the developer has a very briefly explained how you can change the theme and all. So what we're going to do is go to your pubspec.yaml file, open the project, and go to pubspec.yaml file, and here write dynamic theme. Put a colon, run packages get, and always remember, whenever you add a new plugin, stop your application and rerun it so that all the configurations are refreshed. So as you can see that we have restarted our applications. What we're going to do is wrap this material app with a new widget and name it dynamic theme. Right now, this dynamic theme has a function known as data, and inside this data you have to pass a function, and this function takes up brightness as a parameter. That is, based on the brightness you're gonna change the theme, right? So we're gonna return theme data. Okay, so let's just understand what this function is doing. So this method will be called whenever we'll be changing any this method will be called whenever we'll be changing the set theme method of this class, right? We're gonna discuss it about in the later videos, don't worry. Now whenever that function is called, it will return a theme data, so it will update the theme data accordingly according to this brightness, right? So let's add the parameters here. So primary color would be primary black, and then font family will be circular, and brightness. Now see, here we have to change the brightness according to the brightness that we are getting. That means if the brightness equal brightness dot dark, that is, if the present brightness is dark, then I want the brightness to be light, otherwise let it be dark. Now uh, now point to note here is that this method will be called whenever we'll be calling the set brightness method of this class. We're gonna call this method in the later part of the video, so just wait and just understand what is this doing. Whenever the set brightness will be called, we're gonna get the brightness. Now this brightness, this value will be the present brightness setup, that is if it is dark or light. So I'm toggling that if the present brightness is dark, change it to light, otherwise change it to dark. Done. Scaffold color. Scaffold background color, it will be the same if the brightness is dark. If the brightness is dark, I don't want the color to be white, right? So the color I want will be maybe blue gray. I prefer blue gray because it is very calming to the eyes, and a 900 shade of that. Otherwise, be it be white only, right? Okay, let's move how we're gonna pass this theme to our material app widget. So for that, we have a themed widget builder. This takes up context, and the second parameter it takes up is the theme data, and from here we're gonna return this material app. So let's just cut this and paste it inside here. So we are returning this, and instead of this theme, I'm gonna pass the theme that we're gonna get from this function, right? Make sense? I hope you understand this concept. You can always go to pub.dev to read about this. And so let's go to our home page, and for the app bar, that is inside this app bar, what I'm going to do is, as actions takes up a list of widgets, and by the actions you can add any icons to the right of the title. So inside this I'm going to pass an icon button, and the icon would be right now, okay, so icon will be changing according to the theme, right? So on pressed is just an empty widget. So inside icons, what I'm going to do is, I'll write theme dot off dot brightness. That is, I'm checking the current brightness here. If my current brightness is light, that means right now it is light mode. So the icon I'm gonna pass is what? Maybe a light bulb outline. Otherwise, it's gonna be maybe highlight, brightness high, or other highlight. Now if you save it, you can see that we have an icon here. So on pressed it is not changing, that is, it is not changing any theme. So in this on pressed method, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna write dynamic theme dot off. Now dot off function is for inherited widget. We'll discuss about inherited widget in a later part of the series. So we're gonna set dynamic theme dot off dot brightness, that is the brightness to be changed, or rather I'll say, so I'll write dot set brightness as, so what will be the brightness value that we're gonna pass? It's the same, that if the current brightness is light, I'm going to copy the logic here. So I'm going to write, if the current brightness is light, then we're going to pass brightness dot dark, otherwise let it be brightness dot light. I hope you understand this logic. That is, if the present theme is light, so on pressing of it, I want the light theme to change to dark. So I'm writing, if the present brightness is light, change it to dark, otherwise change it to light, right? So let's save it and see what happens when we press this button. So if I press this button, you can see that the theme has changed and we have got our colors that we require, right? And if I click it again, you can see that the theme is changed. Now we have changed our dark theme. Successfully. Now let's check all the pages. So if I go to FAQ pages, you can see that the colors are automatically changed, and these colors I don't feel that needs to be changed. But if we go to the regional section, you can see that the color of these containers, we set them to white. So let's go to our country page, country page, and inside this country page, let me just increase the font. Inside this country page, you can see that in this container we have given the colors as white. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to remove this decoration, that is, I don't want any shadow, I don't want any color to it. Remove it, save it, and now you can see that we have changed the color to the transparent, right? So now next thing is going to be to change the color of these depths. So let's go to the depths, and okay, one more thing that the viewers pointed out, that I just forgot to change these values here. So for recovered, it would be recovered, and for depth it would be depth, so that you get the correct values. And for the color, it should be, I guess, gray 100, a lighter version of gray. There you go, looks much better, much visible, and the values are now the actual values. So there you go, you can see that we have now have the correct values, and you can see that these are to be aligned. So for this, what I'm going to do is, for this column, for the cross axis alignment, I'm going to change it to start, so everything is now aligned to the left. And for this container, I'm going to give it a width of 200, and that's it, everything is now aligned. That's it, good to go, right? So now let's move on to our searching bar, that is how we're gonna do the real-time searches. One more thing that you can do is you can change the color of this container to your wish. So for that, let's just change the color to black. You can see that you can always change the color to your liking. I'm gonna stick with the transparent color right now. Right, so one more thing you can do is you can always wrap this container with a card so that each and every card is visible and distinguishable. There you go, looks better, right? So it's all to your liking. You have the skills, trust in yourself, and change the values, change the colors, and you will be good to go with your own application, right? So next thing will be to implement the searches. So for that, I'll go to this app bar, and as an actions, this time I'm gonna pass an icon button, and in this icon button as an icon I'm gonna pass another icon and pass a search icon to it, and on pressed let it be empty right now. Save it, and you can see that we have our search icon that does nothing right now. So how to implement searches in Flutter application? You can always implement searches by using a show search method that is provided by the Flutter team. And so we're gonna call this show search method, and this takes up context. So I'm gonna pass context, and as a delegate it takes up the search delegate. So we're gonna make that search delegate first. So inside this pages, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make a new file and name it as search. Now how to create your own search delegate? For that, quickly import the material package and make a class. So I'm going to name it as search. Now this search has to extend search delegate class, right? That is provided inside this package only. And you can see a red mark here. Why? Because this you need to implement 4 override methods. So just click on this red bulb and create 4 missing overrides. You can see that we have all the 4 methods that we require, and all these 4 methods are throwing unimplemented error, that is these needs to be implemented. So let's implement them. Okay, now let's understand what are build actions, what are leading, what are build results, and what are build suggestions, right? So for build actions, what are actions for any app bar? The actions are the list of widgets that come after the title. That means you have to return the list of widgets that you want to be displayed in the search after the title, that is towards the right. So I'm gonna return a list, and inside this I'm going to return only one icon button, right? The icon would be, and start clear, that is this will be used to clear up the query that we wrote. So inside this onPress method I'm going to write query equals to empty string. That means what is query? You can see that I have not declared any query inside this search delegate. Now where is the query? Query is present inside this search delegate only by default. So this query is whatever we write in the search bar, right? So in build leading, so what are leadings? Leading is a widget that you can have before the title, that is towards the left. So you can see from this app bar towards the left I want the back icon. So I'll write return icon button, and for the icon of this icon button I'm gonna pass let's start arrow back iOS, and for the onPress method I'm gonna write navigator dot pop, that is close the search here. So whenever you want to close any screen uh, or any sheets that you have opened, you can always use the navigator dot pop method to pop to the previous screen. Now next thing is build results and build suggestions. Right now I'll be returning a blank container, right? And here also I'll return a blank container right now, that is I'm returning an empty space for the results and the suggestions, right? Makes sense. So if we restart this application, As you can see that I have restarted the application. Let's go to the regional and click on this search. We get an error known as that delegate not equal to true. Okay, my bad, I forgot to mention a delegate here, so I'll pass search here. Right, so we have provided them our custom delegate. Now let's restart this application one more time and let's see if it works or not. If you click on this search, you can see that we have the search bar. This is our actions method. Let me just show you. So inside this build actions, I passed an icon button and I passed in clear icon, right? So this is the icon button, and for the leading I passed in navigator, and for the suggestions and results it is blank container. Now let me just show you what I mean by query. So if I write anything here, this is the query string, and if I click on this, the query is emptied. Now okay, the result will be based on the search query, that is whenever we'll be pressing the search icon, what will be the result that we're getting, right? For the suggestions, it will be the real-time search list that we want. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this list here, right? So we want this list, we have already fetched the list, no need to fetch this list again and again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this list to this search delegate here. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a final list and name it as country list, right? Create a constructor out of it. Now go to your country page and inside this search pass the country data. Now country data is holding our country list, right? So let's go to our search and we have the country list. Now this country list is having all the data of this country. So let's move forward how we can build some suggestions out of it. So the suggestions will be built according to our query. I'm gonna write a final suggestion list. Now this suggestion list, if my query is empty, that is if I haven't written anything to our query, I want the list to be exact same as this country list, so it will be country list. Otherwise, if my query is not empty, that means I have something in my query, so I want only those countries which matches to my query, right? So for that we have a where function for our list. So I'll write country list dot where. Now it will iterate through each element of this country list. Inside this country list we have a map. Let me just show you. Inside this country list we have a map, and where is the country name situated? You can see that it is inside this map as the value to this key, country key. So how are we gonna fetch it? So we'll write, now this element will be the each element to this country list, that is every element. Now if where element country, now this will give me the country name dot to lower to string, that is I'm changing the country name to string, dot to lower dot starts with, it should start with what? The query that I'm writing. So I'll write query. Now at the end you write to list. Now let's understand what is this function doing. Let me just arrange it. Now let's understand this, what it is. Now let's understand what is happening actually. So for the suggestion list, if my query is empty, that is I have not written any single search term, so I want the country list to be as it is returned. And if the query is not empty, that is if I have written something like you can say that if that I have written in, so I want the country name that are starting with in. So I'll write where element dot country, that is the country parameter of the element for each element of this list, to lowercase. Why I'm writing the lowercase? Because see, whenever I'll be searching, I'll be writing C S A. So the most of the cases I'll be writing it in lowercase. So the country name here is in uppercase. So I want it to match with my query. So that's why I've changed it to lowercase and starts with query. That is if it is starting with the query that I've written. So it should be so it is filtering based on that, right? So inside this container, what I'm gonna pass a list view dot builder. That is, now this list view dot builder will be built on this suggestion list. So let's pass the context and the index, and what I'm gonna return from it, exactly this tile. So go to a country page, and inside this I'm gonna copy this whole card and paste it here, right? You can see some errors. That's why that's because the name is changed. So I'll write suggestion list, suggestion list. So change everything to suggestion list, right? So I hope you understand what I did here. I just copied this structure and pasted it here. So okay, now next thing is for the item count. The item count will be exactly same as the suggestion list dot length. Right, done. Makes sense. Now let's restart this application and I'll show you what we got. So go to your regional, and if you search, I'll search for Afghanistan. You can see that I've got the country here. If I search for AUS, so all the countries that start with AUS, AU will be there. So like if I write T, so all the countries that have the name starting with T are there. So that's the real-time searches. And now the build results. What does this mean? That is, when I write IND and if I click on enter, that is I click on search, now this will be empty container. So don't worry, we don't want any searches right now, the results here. So the suggestion will do, we can see the confirmed, recovered, and the death cases here, right? One more problem, that whenever we are going to the bright theme, the color here is gray, light gray, so we need to change the color. So go to your country page, and for this death's color we have changed it to gray, and we're gonna write theme dot off dot brightness. If the brightness is dark, that means if the dark mode is enabled, then I want the color to be gray. Otherwise I want the color to be a dark shade of the gray. So I'll write gray 900, right? Makes sense. And I'll just copy this and paste it inside my search suggestions list also. So here I'll paste this, right? Now save it, and you can see that we have the color there. So that's all for today's video. You can see that we have implemented the dark mode very easily, as well as we have implemented the real-time searches in our application. So hope you enjoy this video, hope you learn something from this video, hope you like this video. Please subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for all the further videos, and write down in the comments how you feel about this video, any suggestions, any improvement, or any other new features that you want me to implement in this application. Thank you so much for all the love that you have showed till now, and stay safe, stay at home, stay safe. Hope you are all doing good. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Have a nice day.